So for a change of scenery, the camera is just flipped the other way from where we're normally looking, so you get my banana plant. So let's talk student loans. We have 12 days until payments may or may not be due again. Cutting it a little close here. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is the closest they've cut it with any of the forbearance extensions, with not a whisper of what is happening. And which kind of sucks for a lot of people. Like, I guess I don't really care either way, but I know a lot of people are gonna need to be bracing for coming up with monthly payment again. I know some people are still struggling. So on the topic of forgiveness, I do see that they forgave about $4 billion to all the ITT tech students recently, which is like, that was a whole situation in itself. So that's great. But I think blanket student loan forgiveness as a whole is something I'm still pretty torn on. Personally, I don't think it would be a great idea for the economy, since, we're now dealing with the aftermath of all those stimulus checks that were handed out during the pandemic. It's crazy inflation in grocery store prices, gas, I don't know, whatever, everything. Building materials, like, whew. I think that to blanket forgive, what do we got now? Just in my quick University of Google search. Student loan debt, about $1.7 trillion that many people are hoping will be forgiven. That's just, I believe in federal student loans alone. And something that's interesting to me is I didn't think the COVID stimulus was really quite equivalent to that. I thought it was much less, but according to this article on Google that I found, apparently $5 trillion of pandemic stimulus money came from the money printer, right? About 1.8 trillion to individuals and families, 1.7 trillion to businesses, state and local healthcare and other. I guess that's a lot more than what I really thought it was. So in comparison, is what's another 1.7 trillion, right? To just completely wipe out student loans. Does it even matter at this point? I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I know that blanket forgiveness would greatly reduce the racial wealth gap disparities that we have in our economy. I know that. I'm not naive to that. And I do think that would be amazing. And you could really make the argument to say that all this money that people would be spending on their student loans could then, kind of be input into the economy and help boost the economy a bit. But I don't know. It seems risky. It seems scary. Like, anytime, we've seen it in history over and over, anytime there's any kind of federal relief or stimulus, it's been great for a bit, but then we get it back in inflation, which the economy is going to inflate anyway. So I don't know. There's no right answer. There's no right or wrong answer. This is such a tough topic because I know some people are just so passionate for either one side or the other. They're those, think of all the people that have already paid off their student loans and now suddenly they'll just forgive the rest. I'd be pissed if I had paid mine off in full at this point and then they suddenly forgave them. I think maybe I wouldn't be pissed. I don't know. I guess it would be totally dependent on my situation, which is that the thing is there's so many different situations, so many different angles to look at this, that there's always going to be an argument for so many different sides to this topic. And it just, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of hard to think about because, like, if y'all follow my channel, I don't want my loans forgiven necessarily. Like, yes, it would instantly allow me to walk away from my job and it would just completely change the trajectory of my life. I have $160,700.22 left, in case you're new here. But I've also paid over $100,000 towards them already, and it, I don't know. I don't necessarily want them forgiven because I take personal responsibility for every loan that I took out. Does it suck that in the years that followed my education, I absolutely accrued so much in interest because my minimum payment wasn't even touching the interest on that kind of amount? It just went up and up and up and up and up. Is that shitty? Absolutely. And I know that's happened to so many people, and that is so wrong. These interest rates on student loans were, I wouldn't say they were as bad as credit cards, but Jesus, it's not even like a mortgage. It was like, some of mine are, well, all of mine are between like 6 and 8%. And it just, when you have such a large amount, you just get nowhere but further behind, and it really sucks. And that whole element of it definitely pisses me off, and absolutely I think something should be done about that in itself. But I don't know, as far as just a blanket forgiveness, I don't think it would necessarily be the right thing for the economy as a whole. But again, I don't know. I honestly thought that the total student loan debt was more than the COVID stimulus, and it turns out I was wrong. So it just, if we can somehow come up with that massive amount of money and just like, I don't know, let's call the pandemic like a 2-year window, right? If we can just suddenly have all this money to give everybody, like, student loans were not a 2-year thing. Like, they were, I mean, mine were started over a decade ago at this point. It just, like, obviously we have a need for a systemic change in the whole higher education system and the whole student loan environment as a whole, which I think is finally coming to light, which is great. But I don't know what the best way is to really kind of deal with the problem that's already been created. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? I know everyone is like super heated about this topic, so I don't want to like trigger any nerves, and everyone is allowed to have their own personal opinion, of course. But I don't know. I just find it so weird that we haven't heard an update yet. It's like, what are we waiting for? I don't know. It's kind of scary. And like I said, I'm fine either way, but I know tons of people are not. So that is like, I mean, for me, they're my second highest monthly payment other than my rent. And for many people, I'm sure that's the case too. Like, that's a big monthly payment to put back on your plate. And just the anxiety of, is it happening? Is it not happening? It's really shitty to like leave it so close to the wire. And what's the point of extending them again? Like, just, if you're gonna keep extending them, just friggin' forgive them. I don't know. I don't know. What are we doing? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I love a good debate. You know, when you put your financial thoughts out there in the world, you definitely are gonna get a debate. So, what do you guys think? Are you pro or anti-forgiveness? But now that it's the weekend, we're probably not going to hear any time before Monday, so maybe this week.